Welcome to the MusicWideOpen podcast
The place for an honest and thought-provoking conversation
about music,
business,
life,
technology,
and the future,
for curious music enthusiasts.
and musicians seeking personal growth. I'm Ingolf,
And I am Paulina Wunder. This first episode, I would like to start with a question. Why? Why we decided to make this podcast, and for whom, and what will we be talking about? There will be also a small summary of our journey, of your journey, Ingolf, and let's call it an explanation why one of those young pianists a couple of years ago that got a popular, let's call it a label, a rising star of the piano scene, pretty soon decided to take a big risk and to change the direction of his career and life. But first things first, let's answer the question. Why do we start this podcast? Ingolf, maybe you first.
It's really the most important question, and it's really impossible for me to disentangle this answer from my life, because from the very beginning it was always for me about how to make music the best, and about interpretation. And my focus is on the quality music angle, which we'll come to over the course of this podcast. And for me, it's to give people a door into the inside world of music, how it all works, and where it might go to in the very technological future we're going into.
The scope of the subject will probably be quite vast. That's why Music Wide Open. I would like to share our knowledge, information, simply things that usually no one cares to share with young musicians and music listeners, either because they don't want to do that, or simply because they don't know it, or they have never thought about it. As for the young musicians, I would like to give them some courage to go through this not easy path, to give them the unfair advantage, because the more you know, the better you can prepare for what's to come, the better you can connect the dots in your own life and make sense of it in order to be happy. And this is in the end what we all care about. I would like this podcast to be comforting in a way, but most importantly, honest, even if it means it will be sometimes an uncomfortable eye-opener. As for the music listeners and music enthusiasts, Ingolf, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we'll always lean towards the classical music lovers a little bit more. I would like to open the door to a world that most probably is unknown to them. What classical music lovers usually do, they go to concerts, they have sometimes their favorite performers, they might know a few facts about them, about the music itself, and more or less that's it. I hope that we can make it as interesting, as informative, so that also music listeners can feel a bit closer to the world of artists, their reality, and to understand its complexity. But let's see how and where it goes. Okay, now as a starting point in this very first episode, I would like to sum up a few facts from your life, Ingolf, and your and my journey, and you will be the one to do that.
With pleasure. The journey. This is really interesting because my life has been so different than most of the let's say professional classical musicians' lives, and I'm super thankful that it was different because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here doing this podcast. But let's start at the beginning briefly. I started the piano way too late for nowadays standards of a professional classical musician, like with age 14. By that time, usually some pianists already play major repertory live in concert at age 12 or something, and at that time I haven't even started professionally in any sense. So my journey started, of course, before that in a way musically, because I was doing music as a hobby from age 6, 7 or 5 even on. I don't remember exactly because it was always in the family. My older brother played instruments. My father is a hobby musician, and we simply started playing Austrian folk music for tourists when I was a very, very young child.
We need to add here that you didn't play the piano at that point and you played violin.
Yeah, exactly. We played on the violin, traditional folk music, and my father was on the double bass, and we had a Styrian harmonic player or harmonica player. I don't know what's the English word for that. So I was actually on stage from age 7 on, but I call it just for fun because there was never pressure behind. It just always went sort of on its own. I could just play, and I didn't play with score, nothing. It was just natural, just folk music. Retrospectively, the best start you can have, because this is natural music making, to which we will also come in the course of this podcast. But so on it went, normal childhood, which I'm super thankful for now. And then with age 14 or 14 and a half, this big shift, and this came because now I know that well-known Austrian piano teacher from Linz heard me fool around on the piano because I could play already a little bit. No repertoire whatsoever, nothing, but he heard me at the conservatory where I was playing violin, and he contacted through the school my parents and said, basically, he heard me touch the instrument, and I need to play the piano, I need to do this. And my parents gave me the offer, do you want to do this, do you want to travel to Linz every second week for lessons, and I was okay, why not, as I always am, let's try. So this is how it all started, and then it went super speed, warp speed, whatever it's called in Star Trek. It went from 0 to 100. I was offered to play whatever I wanted, and I picked Liszt because I loved romantic music, and he said, well, probably, my teacher said, probably way too difficult for you, but let's try. And so I tried, and a year later I was playing already at the Concerthaus in Vienna for a small 20 minutes recital. So, and before that I had my first proper length recital in the university already, so with Beethoven sonata, big Liszt pieces and stuff. So actually unbelievable, and I still don't know how that worked, because I had to learn everything. When I see my score notations now that I did at that time, it's like, it's sort of cute what I didn't know, but it sort of worked. And then fast forward again, I had the pleasure to be heard in an artist room of a concert in Luxembourg by Emmanuel Krivine, who invited me to Orchestre National de France when I was 18.
For a concert in Paris.
Exactly, at the Théâtre Champs-Élysées. I played third Prokofiev concerto. I played it only after I started it a month or a month and a half, so it was very fresh, but it was a huge success. Reviews were amazing, everything.
In the meantime, you won a couple of competitions as well.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot even that, because that was a very, very good thing, because my teacher, Horst Matthäus is his name, by the way, he enrolled me to, or encouraged me to enroll in small youth competitions where you play 15 minutes of music, 10 minutes of music and stuff like this. So very good trial and preparation concerts or performances in front of public. And so it was everything natural, and I did all that without thinking, which is a theme in my life.
Well,
by that I mean I let the gut feeling rule.
yeah.
And so it all went. And of course now retrospectively it sounds all so cool and everything is perfect. It was of course not everything perfect. There were lots of ups and downs. And so also, for example, after this Paris concerto, which was a huge success, and we all thought, wow, okay, that's it. Now it's gone. Now it's going to go. Well, it didn't go for some reason. Who knows why? So the invitations didn't come as expected, and so on. So this is always is in life. It's up and down. But so there were then the first thoughts of, hey, maybe I should do something else. I was always interested in computers. I was always immersed in technology. Even when I started playing the piano, I had to buy my set of microphones and digital mixers and everything, and I started recording myself on the computer and everything. So editing, recordings, all that, this was always part of my life, and coding as well in computer games and stuff like this. So I thought about maybe something else is smarter to do than playing the piano if it's not going as well as expected. Of course, always keeping in mind that my expectations were high, meaning when I say that it didn't go as planned, it was still going well, sort of, but maybe not as well as I imagined. Anyway, long story short, then another happy coincidence in my life happened with the encounter of Maestro Hadošević, who heard me at my first appearance at the Chopin competition in 2005, which one always has to say, which is amazing now in retrospect, that I played the piano professionally for 6 years and I entered the Chopin competition, and I was doing pretty well already.
Yes, absolutely. I remember you.
And we'll come to this for sure in the course of this podcast. But yeah, so then, and Maestro Hadošević heard me then there too, and actually it was an honor, because it was after a concert in 2006, I guess that was, no, 7 I think, in S1 studio in Warsaw, where Maestro Hadošević came to hear me again, play Ravel, Gaspard de Nuit and stuff like this. He came to me after the concert and was very happy and so on. And actually, a couple of weeks later, he called me because he wanted to say again how that he liked the performance, and then I basically used the opportunity to say if it wouldn't be possible to work with him, and he like it would be clear for him, said, yeah, of course, would love that, but I'm not a professor. I don't know if I can teach, because he never had a student really on a longer term basis, and so I said, I don't mind. I just need somebody who really knows what he's talking about, and he obviously does. And so we started and tried, and it went really well, and the rest is sort of history, because in 2010 then I had the great pleasure to have all these successes and a record label contract and concerts in so many countries and everything. That it's a dream. It's like this dream that every young musician has, and I had too, and it came true for me. Yes, with hard work and lots of ups and downs, but it came true. And then as it often is in my life, realizations come quickly, and here I have to rewind a little bit, because my first teacher, Horst Matthäus in Linz, he was a very old school kind of mind. He had no clue about how the music business works, and also told me so. He said, I cannot help you in any way in terms of what to do in order to make a career or whatever. I can just tell you musically what's good and what isn't. And he was very much living in the times of the golden age of the piano, from old school pianists starting from Hofmann to Friedman, to then later, of course, as well, more modern like Richter and Horowitz and so on. But you see, I say more modern, although they are still old school and very much golden age of the. So that was my world. I was immersed in the recordings. I didn't know anything before I started with Mr. Matthäus. So he had all these records and all the scores in his home, which he called the Mühle, so the mill. It was an old mill in Upper Austria on a river, beautiful, with 2 pianos in, and there we always had the lessons. I had like the weekends of lessons with him. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, and so I was always in that world of Horowitz and co, and I, in my mind, not having any clue about the music business, or I wasn't even aware how the music business looked already in 2000, where all this was. I was in my brain preparing for, yes, if I will ever make it, I'll be Horowitz on Carnegie Hall, MSNBC televised in 1960. And all that comes with it. So all the enthusiasm from the public, from the press, from the society, everything.
Things changed in the meantime.
Don't ask me why, but it was the case. I mean, don't ask me why I thought this, but I did. So I was really like, I was only loving the substance matter. So the interpretation, we'll come to that. So the micro timings, the volume, etc. And how to make something emotional, how to make something great. So yes, so and then when all that happened to me in 2010, I thought, wow, Deutsche Grammophon, recordings, concerts everywhere, I'll be Horowitz in the 60s.
I remember you got an offer as well from Sony Music.
That's correct.
At the same time, and
that's correct. So even more so. So I thought,
That's
wow,
true.
that's the top now.
Yeah.
Look at me.
We were so green as well, generally speaking, at that point.
And then, as I said, when I was going back, the realizations come, as always they do in my life. And then I looked around me, and on that top of the classical music world, where the peers or the ones that you meet at the parties and so are the top names, and you think, wow, yes, and now I will work with the best people in the world. I will meet only the, as I said, Horowitz in the 60s, and that didn't happen. So I was looking around saying, where are those people?
What am I doing here?
And so I thought, like, they I will not mention names, but these people that you deal with, and saying they have no understanding about this stuff that we are actually doing, that the pianist should care about, that the pianist should.
Probably we need to explain here a little bit more so that it doesn't come across arrogant. What do you mean exactly?
Well, I mean exactly this importance of the quality music and interpretation angle, which we will really go into detail along this podcast. But this is basically the micro timing and volume changes in the interpretation, how you play the music in order to emphasize its emotional impact. And this is all a classical interpreter actually in the past cared about. That's why Rubinstein or Friedman, Rosenthal, Rochalski, all these people were so expressive, so great, and the society and the people around in that time did appreciate that and did hear it and did know that these people did this, and that's why they were so good. And this what I expected to be seen and to be the only topic on that level, right?
That's true, and we discovered that
it's not
no topic
the
of
topic
this
on,
kind.
well, the topic on that level is, as we will also go into business and numbers and money and so on, this is all okay. Was back then too, by the way.
That's true.
It's not like it
true,
wasn't
but
there.
not to this extent.
Exactly. No, it was maybe to the same extent, but it was
Proportions were different.
Yes, exactly. On the same level was the other stuff, which for an active musician should be, or is the only thing you care about, right?
That's true.
So this was kind of a cold shower, and but nevertheless, it of course continued to be great. I'm so immensely grateful for this experience, for this success. For come on, what an honor! I mean, to be the first Austrian major prize winner. On
German speaking, actually, I would say.
Definitely there was.
30s, I believe. I'm not sure.
Or 1920 was, I think there was one Austrian, but he got a 7th prize or 8th prize or something.
Yes,
but that was 1920 or 30.
But I'm talking about the main prizes, and
none of the main prizes were German speaking. Yeah?
German speaking.
So I was especially after the war. So this is such an honor, and I'm still chuffed that I'm, of course, lots of hard work, as we'll also go into in the course of this podcast, what happened in the preparation phase, and so I'm sure it will come up at some point. So lots of work, but a great honor. So I will cherish that all my life. But the realizations that came because of that, I cherish even more, I think.
I think as well, sorry to interrupt you here, but I think as well we'll talk at some point about this, why, not now, not in the first episode, but why you actually are happy you didn't win the competition. although there was a scandal and very many people were for you.
That's
But
a good point.
But I think this will leave for later.
Yes, I would just touch maybe
Yeah.
on that, just on the reason why what you just said is true, is because of this realization and what came afterwards, right? Because we together, I mean, we're so lucky, because I remember Adam Harashiewicz's wife, she told me that was actually funny, a funny story as well. You have to imagine it was way before the Chopin competition 2010. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have anything but practice and and piano, and she told me over coffee after the lesson with Maestro, saying, Ingolf, you know, if you start traveling a lot, never travel alone. I said, yeah, I would love to. I just need to get a girlfriend.
Well, you know, some
rest
pianists travel with their parents until they are 40.
Yeah, that's right.
45.
Anyway, but then it all happened that we met as well because of the Chopin competition. I'm sure we'll get to that as well at some point.
Yes.
But so we traveled to so many countries, 40 or 50 or whatever it was, and in all the countries we saw the same issues, the same problems in music understanding, in music education, and in both, by the way, both amateur level and professional level music education, because these are two different things. That music is cut in schools, that it doesn't have the same importance anymore as other topics like language or mathematics, which music absolutely should. So, and then I think it was about 2016 when we first thought, or 15
No,
even.
it depends what you want to say next.
Yeah, I think when we thought about actively, I mean, we thought many times.
The first ideas came in 2011.
That's right.
But we were not ready. We couldn't.
That's right. But actively, let's say when we really started, when we formed, projects and companies and stuff like this, these thoughts happened, I think, in 15.
In 15, really, and we started actively from that time.
In 16, 17, it really happened. But all while playing concerts, of course. But we really actively thought about making a difference, because when we realized that all these things are going sort of wrong or in a different direction, then if we wouldn't, or if we don't do anything against it, we are also guilty. And this we didn't want to let happen. One of the main things that we realized is the obvious decline of importance of classical music in society. Because when I was talking about the golden age of the piano, where I was kind of educated in, sort of, then that was different. So there were 3,000 people coming to a Liederabend at Carnegie Hall. I mean, and nowadays they are happy if 300 people come. So and this we saw firsthand, and we had a hunch, and we still have a hunch, that this is directly connected with that quality music aspect, with this interpretation, emotional aspect of music, alongside all the obvious factors, obviously, that life's getting quicker and all that thing, and people have more choices and all these things. Yeah.
That was the main reason why we started this journey, technological journey.
Yes, and this is exactly, thank you for keeping me on track. And this is exactly what I meant by when we started actively to change things or do something against it. We started our technological journey in a way, because we thought the first idea was the distance learning, obviously.
That was way before 2020.
Yeah.
So it was not yet popular.
Yeah, that was the first idea of bridging the distance problem, so to speak, because there are obvious talents are never lacking. So there are always great young talents around in the world,
and also great teachers.
And the great teachers as well. They just sometimes, or most of the time, are not in the same geolocation, and sometimes even great talents are quickly gone if they are not nurtured and not caught in in the right space and the right time. So
let's put it this way: we wanted to make it easier for people, for students and for teachers to connect, to find each other, and this was actually also partly based on your own experience, Ingolf, right?
That's correct, because if I would have had such a system as Appasio and Appassimo are, then I would have had an easier life, because at that time, my parents, amazingly, now that I'm a parent myself, I can appreciate that even more, drove me 300 kilometers by car for a weekend to a different city just to have my piano lessons. I mean, this is amazing effort. My parents, I just recently had a conversation. They drove 70,000 kilometers per year with a car.
Just for you?
Yes.
Incredible.
So this is not funny. So I'm immensely grateful for that support. Always was, by the way.
And let's not forget also about your trips by train to have lessons in another country.
Yes, the night trains to Paris and Brussels and things like this. Yeah, absolutely, many things. For example, there I met the wonderful Idil Biret the first time. I forgot when exactly. I must have been 15, 16, something like this. And this, formed not only lifelong friendships, but gave me so much. Such meetings with people that have so much knowledge. They say one sentence, and it's worth more than if you would have 3 years in some university. And
so we thought about all of that while we were launching Appasio.
Yes, exactly. And this was the first project that kind of deviated from or put us on a different path than the classical journey of a successful young classical pianist, if you will. So
it wasn't an easy start. We have to say here. It was once maybe we'll talk about that or write a book, because that's already.
It never is it?
No, it's never. But it's very exciting.
But yeah, so all that long kind of story from the beginning to why we're doing this podcast is connected to all that, because due to this journey of technology, always of course music in the absolute center and will always be, but leveraging state-of-the-art technology, this is why I also want to give this perspective that I have learned in those years in this podcast.
Let's keep the timeline here. So we launched Appasio, and you were still touring and giving concerts, of course, quite prestigious, quite big and important. And then this was actually decided for us that technology is something that we have to go deeper into, was coming with this whole disaster in 2020. Yes, and I think we should talk a little bit about that.
That's correct. Of course, this whole this whole bomb that was the virus in 2020, especially for musicians.
For musicians, it was terrible. For most of them.
Supercharged that. It sort of, again, and I'm saying that I said it before, that I usually do decisions without thinking, and sometimes life gives back in sort of not to give a choice other than to do this. It was this. I mean, I remember we were in Italy at that time, right, in Florence, yes, when the first lockdown hit.
Yeah.
And we just, as for all the musicians, the whole concert calendar, the planned one for the next...
One concert after another, bam, 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 red.
They just go, they are just cancelled. So but since we were anyway, you have to imagine when you said I was still touring and playing big concerts while we were doing all the technology stuff and Apasimo, that was...
Apasimo was not yet there.
Yeah, no, that's correct. But it started with Apasio, and this was real stuff, meaning that I was literally coming home from the concert to the hotel. I mean, I call it home when I go to the hotels. And we're working with the developers until 3 in the night.
That's true.
Or 4 in the night sometimes, just to get some stuff done, or if there was a problem to fix it. And so
let's underline here, that was after the concerts, not before the concerts.
So yeah, exactly.
The responsibility was always there.
Of course, the concert was done. Artist left the artist room, said goodbye to the promoter, and went to the hotel room to the computer. so this was really hardcore, one has to say. Anyway, but
in 2020, our platform Apasio, which is designed for individual use, so single teachers and single students connecting to each other, was in such a demand that was probably the busiest time for us.
That's what I meant by life giving no choice in a way, because I just went back to say that it was always serious and lots of work put in, even while on the road. But then the road was gone because of COVID, for a while at least. So it was obvious that we would jump on this because it was there and it was always there anyway. And as you said, the interest was there because, of course, classical musicians and institutions were looking for a solution, and our solution was better.
And they wanted it immediately, so that's why.
Yes, and we were ready. So that was, of course, busy. Lucky as always in life. You need the sort of luck factor, but it came to us because of the hard work that was put in before.
That's one thing, and then immediately we started to develop Apasimo, which is also a platform for remote teaching, just for institutions, because that was very much needed. And
exactly. And that was super busy. I mean, to launch new apps like this with a small team, as a startup is, that's of course really 17-hour work days over a long period of time. But as I said, I definitely, and I think we both don't call work because it's life in a way. I mean, if you like what you do, or if you have a mission,
if you're passionate about it,
then it doesn't feel like a chore. So that's why you just do it. It's still tiring because you still need to sleep, unfortunately. But this is the point. So this went very well. But in those, you have to imagine that really we did, with our small team, we did literally help hundreds of professors, music and piano, but not only piano. Personally,
because they had no clue at that point how to actually make online lessons.
Everybody knows how them getting online, help them really making quality lessons.
What they should choose,
everything.
And that the internet, my internet doesn't work. No, or your app doesn't work. No, your internet doesn't work, or your router is too far away from your computer.
Yes. But in this, why I mentioned that as well, this hardcore groundwork, is that in this journey, again, it was a journey that got hypercharged because of COVID. We got to know so many things, and again, realizations started to kick in.
That's true. That's very important.
And in these realizations,
Maybe let's put it this way. We realized what kind of problems actually musicians have, and teachers and students, because we got this knowledge firsthand, directly from hundreds of teachers and students from different institutions worldwide.
That's correct. And that led us, and these realizations led us to the next part of our journey, which went directly into deep tech and AI and this sort of
So
things.
artificial intelligence, in other words.
Exactly. Because we thought, and due to these realizations, we knew that this kind of knowledge that we let's say we had the feeling, or we still have the feeling, that this knowledge that is somewhere or most of the time lacking will help classical music to become more interesting, to maybe reach more people and this sort of thing. So that's why we thought, why not use artificial intelligence and deep tech models to help students directly as well. And so this journey started out of the distance learning journey, and this is the current journey we're on. So
we will be talking about this all in the next episodes as well, next to other subjects, obviously. Here I would like to interrupt and clarify one thing, because I know that many people for whom you just, Ingolf, disappeared from the concert stages all over the world are asking themselves a question: is he still playing? Has he already stopped? What is he doing now? Where is he? What would you say to this?
What do I say to this? I mean, we just we just went through my journey from the very beginning, and this is sort of for me very, very natural what happens at the moment.
But people don't know that.
Even if it's not understandable for people from the outside. But I will say, I mean, like I obviously will never stop playing, also live, and I didn't. Even despite the companies and the projects that need to be led and made, I always played, and I will always play. Maybe I will at some point play more, maybe not. I don't know yet. I started to compose because of you, and this goes well. And so let's put it this way: I love to be on stage. I do. Because otherwise you wouldn't have chosen this life that I did. But the future of the quality in classical music and the importance of this beautiful art form is more important to me than my own ego. And especially now that I have my son Amadeo, our son Amadeo, I feel even more so, because this is what we are working on, and what I was always caring for might as well just disappear if it goes on the trajectory that we are on, and I just don't want that to happen. So this is much more important than anybody asking himself where am I or what is he doing, because I'm doing an awful lot.
Well, this I know, but people don't know it. You said something that many people wouldn't agree with you, that it might disappear, the classical music might disappear. I think they would understand something different by that than this what you understand.
Correct. When I mean, again, I have my Horowitz in the 60s hat on. When I mean, what I mean is that this highest form of interpretation, which is classical music. Let's not forget, classical music is interpretation, because we are all playing the same pieces. If that's disappearing, which it obviously is, and we even by now we have studies to prove that, then at some point it will be all the same. Like, it's already like this, that people don't care who is playing the concert as long as it's Rachmaninoff. But it will be even more so that the interpretation and with this, the classical music might disappear. I don't say that Mozart will not be played. Mozart will probably be played by an AI or something. You know what I mean?
I think this what we are talking about here is the main the main problem is that musicians, and I'm pretty sure many people will not agree with this, what I would just say, many musicians become very robotic in their playing. And this is, unfortunately, it might be a natural transition for simply a computer to play. Because we human beings, we don't demand from musicians to be authentic, to be inspired, not in this what they say, but in their music,
Exactly.
in their playing.
Exactly right, because this is, music, as I always say, you know that already because I keep talking about this stuff. The music is made out of more than two layers, but two main layers. Compositional layer, where the melodies, structures, harmonics, etc. are set, and then the interpretational layer or performance layer that a person or sometimes a robot or a MIDI machine or whatever plays it, and we humans always hear the music or get to know the music with our ears, with our sensors, through that performance layer. Like you cannot hear a compositional layer without the performance layer in the middle. And that performance layer can ruin so many times a wonderful compositional layer. And the other way around, a mediocre compositional layer can be made into a masterpiece by a fantastic performance layer. And that's why it's so important. This is what I mean by disappear, because the composition layer will not disappear, because already in the 70s they trained AI models to compose new Chopin pieces. If you really know the Chopin repertoire, you know that okay, that segment was copied from this one and this was transposed here and then, so. But it sounds Chopin-esque. But my point is the composition layer will stay because it's already in the AI models, but the performance layer not. And this is the one that humans communicate music with, and this will disappear.
What's the conclusion of this first episode?
Awareness.
True.
People have to become aware. I think it was, I at least heard it from Dr. Joe Dispenza the first time. Probably was he was quoting somebody, I forgot. It was about Columbus sailing to America, and the indigenous people at that time, when Columbus's ships appeared on the horizon, didn't see the ships when they were far away, because they didn't know the concept of a ship. And once the ship was very close to them, they saw that there was something coming, but then it was too late and they were dead. So in other words, if people are not aware of what we just touched upon, these intricate details of music and this importance of that substance matter, if people are not aware of that, it's already disappeared. Like it's already not there. So I think this is my conclusion.
I hope that with this podcast we can, dear listeners, make you more aware of the subjects that you didn't think about.